Well, I want to welcome you both to Monday Meals. We're going to get into some intros real quick. Today is subject is about the state of the budget. As we know, interim mayor Kevin Jenkins released budget last week, and we're going to talk about it. And so I have two of my folks here joining me today, excited to dive into this conversation. We have Tash Nguyen. Tash is Bay Area born, a child of refugees, and brings their lived experience to her abolitionist organizing work as a queer person who funneled through the School of Prison pipeline. They proudly serve as ED, Executive Director of Restore Oakland Inc., and co-founder of Community of Care First Community Coalition. And I also have John Jones. John Jones III is on staff with Urban Strategies Council, where he serves as Director of Programs. As a firmly incarcerated single father and third generation East Oakland resident, John seeks to transform his communities by utilizing his experiences and expertise as a consultant, life coach, and subject matter expert. After being in After being unsheltered and unemployed, John utilizes those experiences for advocacy, community organizing, and empowerment. As a result, John has been recognized for his efforts on the local, regional, and statewide levels by serving on several boards, commissions, and task force. I'm really, really excited to have y'all both here. Thank you for joining. And so, how was your weekend? Did either of you attend 510 Day or any other events over the weekend? Let's start off with you, Tosh.
Um, my weekend was really good. I felt like I soaked up the sun and tried to just escape the heat by heading to the river, to the Russian River. So it was a really nice slow weekend preparing for this really big season of budget time. So yeah. How about you, John?
It it was tough. A buddy of mine was murdered Wednesday night. We were
Mm,
gathering to honor another person who lost their life, and just yeah, yeah, it's just enough is enough. It's been pretty tough, but I can say so. Saturday night, I did go to the concert at the arena,
mm,
the Queens. So to see Shaka Khan and Patti LaBelle, Stephanie Mills, Gladys Knight, that did bring a form of healing, right? And it just goes to show that we can have safe entertainment as adults, right in East Oakland. So
mm-hmm.
that's the energy I'm holding on to right now in this moment.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
my condolences, John. I didn't know the person um, who was murdered, but it definitely impacted some mutual friends, and I was with people who went to that uh, event that night. So stuff really, hits close to home.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I'm really glad that you got to go to the concert. I wanted to attend that as well. Oakland Rising, we were outside. Um, I was not outside. I was under the weather, so I was inside. But the whole crew was outside representing at 510 Day, and got to hear some feedback and look at pictures. And always a beautiful event. It's actually the first time I've ever missed 510 Day, so definitely glad that we were still there representing. And with everything that was just mentioned, even with how the week and weekend went, the budget is very important to the lives of Oakland residents, right? And what we can have, festivals, public safety, arts, and culture. It's all connected to it. And before we get, into a deep dive, I wanted to talk about a measure that a lot of us worked on, collectively to get passed, and that was Measure W. And so in 2020, Measure W was passed by voters to fund housing in response to homelessness, not only in Oakland, but Alameda County. Um, and we are still advocating today in 2025 for Measure W, which is very essential to our public safety for our unhoused neighbors and communities. Um, John, can you talk a bit about, the importance of why we still need to advocate for Measure W?
A couple of reasons. I mean, first of all, for anyone who's just been down East 12th, right? I mean, you can see for our eyes, right? As well as the closing of encampments, but not providing safe housing for folks, right? That's obviously a need. But I want to go a step further why this is important to continue to advocate for this. We do know the finance director resigned, stepped down, but we know that there's been some challenges in terms of the city actively going after these bonds, right? That's the first thing. It's just making sure that the measure does exactly what it said it was going to do, right? And number two, continuing to focus on the humanity of these issues, right? Because it gets lost with when we talk about budgets. For some people, it's a matter of numbers, but for folks like us, we're talking about human beings, right? So if we're putting human beings first, then we should be creatively doing everything we can to find housing for people. And here's the last thing to me, and on this note, because I know we all can talk forever. I know Tash has a lot to offer. There's a current growing movement of this 47 in particular. He inspires this false sense of I pull myself up by my bootstrap, right? So we're seeing a lot of folks feeling like if you are unsheltered, it's your fault, right? And it's just something about that most of us are one paycheck away, one bad thing away from finding ourselves. I raise my hand, right, to be in that situation. So how do we as a society devolve to a point to where there's no real empathy, compassion, right? This sense of, oh, well, I just want what I want. I don't care about you. But we don't see how everything comes together. So we have to always fight. And the measure is just one way of fighting. But we have to continue to fight because all of us deserve dignity, respect, and housing.
Mm-hmm.
Thank
Mm-hmm.
you for bringing that up, especially if we could, touch on East 12 for a moment, because did they clear the encampment today? It's scheduled to be, to be cleared, but this has been, we could use this encampment as an example, right? It's existed for a number of years, leading back to Libby Schaff when she was in office, so a very long time. And so I think most residents, at least us on this live, right, and people who are participating, we just don't want to see encampments swept. We want to see people getting the resources that's needed to transition from being in an encampment into, a home, a safe home. But it's been the neglect for so long and not investing in those, and that's what we have been pushing for,
Mm-hmm.
is to have the resources that's there to finance Measure W, programs like Macro, right? But we're also seeing in this moment the same groups of people who are pushing back on a lot of progressive values, not wanting to use these funds for
Mm-hmm.
unhoused folks, right? And even public safety. And so it seems to be a lot of misinformation when people are talking about these different measures and presenting them.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Taj, just wanted to get your opinion, on this particular matter, and also how we can advocate more for Measure W.
Totally. Well, let me just zoom out. So there's multiple budgets happening right now, right? There's a state budget that is happening right now. There's a city budget, which interim Mayor Jenkins just put a proposal for the city of Oakland. And then there's the Alameda County budget, right? On top of those three budgets, and in addition to the federal shenanigans, there's this pot of money called Measure W that sits in Alameda County, right? So in 2020, just for people who don't know, because we just didn't make room to talk about that, but in 2020, Alameda County voters voted overwhelmingly to to fund a tax, basically, that where we were taxing ourselves money to over 10 years to be able to solve the homelessness crisis. So Measure W would fund increase of housing stock, right? All kinds of housing, as well as housing services. So, wraparound services, recovery services at housing sites, helping people get housing navigated, helping with reentry folks, helping with providing mental health services. And so, the idea is that this is this massive 10-year pot of money to really get to the root cause of addressing poverty and the revolving crisis of homelessness, criminalization, and hospitalization. Many people don't talk about these things intersecting, but I think the three of us with lived experience like are working at the intersections of this, right? So basically, Measure W was held up in court for 5 years. All of these people who don't like taxation sued over it. The county is winning, and over the last 5 years, we have accrued about, I think it's like $400 million that we could spend, right? Um, and the county, we are actually in the county right now. They are talking about Measure W right now. We have our organizers there. We have the Carefree Community Coalition there. And so we're saying, hey, we want this funding to be spent on the things that the voters said that they wanted to. And the reason why we're have to defend this all of a sudden is because there are a number of county supervisors who want to go against the will of the voters and use that funding for other things like police, like literally anything else other than housing and homelessness, even though we are footing this bill, right? So that goes to say, right, how this says a lot about how the county board of supervisors, what those two supervisors think about democracy. Um, Additionally, I can talk more and more about Measure W, but like that's what we're facing right now. We're really trying to protect these funds for what they are. There's a lot of things that they can go towards, like permanent supportive housing, deep rental subsidies, right? Helping people actually not lose their housing, like housing vouchers. And so we want to be able to like actually have the creativity. And the beautiful thing about this is that we actually already know what this $400 million could be spent on. The county did a report called the Home Together Plan that literally is a roadmap to say, over the next 10 years, this is how we can solve this problem.
Absolutely. And you hit some really key points, especially about getting people, vouchers so that they can get their housing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it can also, boost grassroots power,
Mm-hmm.
enabling residents to participate in campaign financing, which is needed. We need more public input, being that the public is, being impacted. I think something you mentioned, Tosh, a lot of special interest. Groups and corporations are sending their own lobbyists to speak, on behalf of the community, which really doesn't, centers the the needs of people. Um, we do have some upcoming, and we'll share some key dates of different upcoming meetings and forums momentarily, but also wanted to discuss some of the impacts right now that we're, uh, seeing from lack of investment, from the city. We have been trying to talk to community and get outside and really, gauge what some of the priorities of community. And it's really broad, especially depending on what district you live in. I live in District 7. I believe John is also in District 7. District 5. Okay. Oh, you at 5 now.
I
Okay.
moved, yeah.
Okay. Well, I know in my particular district, what's important to people that's been a decades long issue is illegal dumping and blight. Um, I am a I am always submitting tickets to 311.
Mhm.
And so, with that said, even for people who, like myself and others who we have the information, we know who to call to report, but they're not funded. And
Mhm.
so, I have tickets, 311 tickets that have been sitting for actually a couple of years because I just submitted another one yesterday. Um, and so, can we talk about some of the different priorities based on conversations your orgs, have been having, especially with East Oaklanders, immigrant communities, and yeah, just low income folks who are the most
Mhm.
impacted?
John, do you know more about the city budget? I can tap up. I can talk about the county budget if you want to talk about the city
Yeah,
or both.
to be honest, I haven't spent a lot of time going over the
Oh,
city budget,
okay.
primarily because we know once it gets to council hands where it is now, it's not going to look the
Mhm.
same.
Right.
But I do think, if I can just say this real quick, and I think it's important for folks to understand three particular things related to the budget, the city budget. Let's start with the fact that our local branches of government, by all intents and purposes, are brand new, right? Our executive branch is the mayor, and as was mentioned, interim mayor Kevin Jenkins was the one who formulated the mayor's budget, not incoming Barbara Lee. There was conversations, but for all intents and purposes, this is Kevin's budget, right? Number two, in city council, there's 8 council members. 4 of them just got reelected, right? 3 in November. Charlene just got elected, right? Then only one of them, Noel Gallo, has served more than 2 full terms, right? D3, Carol Fife, just was reelected. So basically, 6 of them are literally brand new, right? And we're talking about Kevin and Ramachandran are still in their first term. I'm saying this for a reason because I get there's a lot at stake, and the recalls in particular, I think, have created this appetite for folks want instantaneous change in results. It's not going to happen. Be patient. I even throw in a third branch of government, which most people don't pay attention to, the city attorney. Ryan Richardson was just elected. And why that's important, as these branches try to work together, they all play a key role that can either advance what we need or it can impede it, right? Here's another caveat that's so important because we're talking about the issues, whether it's illegal dumping, things of that nature. Our city council, as our legislative body, right, they're responsible for the budget. They're also responsible for passing laws. However, city council cannot direct city staff. I'm saying this
Right.
for a reason because a lot of times folks see things, and look, we already know D7, Son of Houston, Ken Houston, he's out there on the ground. I know Noel Gallo was out there. I've been out there with him, but I want the residents to understand if you see some of these things, don't necessarily get just upset with your council member. They see it, they are aware of it. They cannot direct anybody in the city administration, right? So we got to figure out how do we resolve those barriers, those lack of communication. And I want to add one more thing, and I'll stop there. Part of it has to do with the way our government functions, right? There is high vacancy rate that's been there forever, right? So you get money allocated for a position, it takes maybe 9 months to fill it, which is strange to me. Why are we not doing a great job of hiring folks from Oakland to do
Mhm.
some of this? I never understood why we don't do that, right? So you get a few folks there and they're overworked, right? And that's where the overtime come in. But then some people feel like it's cheaper to pay a few people overtime than it is to actually fill that position. But my point is we got to look at all the pieces before we even figure out what's the best solution. Because absent of that, we're going to be doing what we've been doing for decades now.
Mhm.
Oh,
Mhm. 100%.
yeah,
Yeah.
important points made, and I really hope people listen to that. And that's one thing that we've really been trying to reiterate across all channels, right? And the work that we're doing is being transparent about who is responsible, for the budget, and
Mhm.
really pushing for people to get involved because you're right, John. Like, nobody has an answer. Nobody really has a solution. It's going to take all of us to work together to push the right policies, and hoping that our council works with the community to push the right policies that's going to keep people housed for one, and offering some level of safety.
Mhm.
But you also raised a question, and many people raise this question: why doesn't the city prioritize hiring residents? I would have to say gentrification most likely plays a big part of that. It's not. I see lifetime and long time residents doing the work, but we have a lot of people who haven't lived in Oakland very long, who might not really understand how our city government
Mhm.
works, or they might not think that it pays enough for them to make a livable wage. Right? Those are
Good
all real
afternoon.
things, and we could say some of the same thing about retention across the board with certain city positions and uh,
Mhm.
OPD positions. But this is the ample time for people to get in the faces and really ask about those priorities. And Tosh,
Mhm.
on the county level, it's even more money that's available,
Right.
but most people don't look at the county
Mhm.
when we're talking about these certain services. The finger pointing is always at city electeds, but
That's right.
Alameda County Board of Supervisors need to let some of that money go.
Yeah. Okay, so I will tell you what I do know about the city before we move to the county. So Restore Oakland and I think Oakland Rising 2 is like we're a part of this coalition called the Oakland People's Budget Coalition. And the People's Budget Coalition has 5 priorities. One is like renter protection and affordable housing, as we just talked about. Two, reimagining public safety, investing in like a community safety infrastructure. Something that we saw in Kevin Jenkins's budget is like we now see macro as a part of the essential budget as a critical service now, whereas that was not the case 2 years ago, right? We are now seeing community ambassadors not on the chopping block, right? So I do have to say, yes, shit is shitty, but there's something our movements are doing that is really resonating. And now this stuff is baked into the budget, even into the proposed budget, right? Priority 3, protect vital public services. That's like cleaning, sanitation, the things that we need to keep the city clean and safe. Priority 4 is protecting Oakland workers, especially the ones that work here. And I would say, to your point, like another reason why there are not that many workers is because the city is short staffed. We have a lot of OPD cops who mostly don't live here, but across a lot of the other departments, the city staff live here across the other departments, whereas OPD don't live here. They, in fact, don't even live in this county for the most part,
Mhm.
right? And we're paying them the most, right? So they're spending their money in other cities and other counties, right? Um, priority 4 is protecting the workers, and priority 5 is investing in arts and culture because we always know that that is usually the first on the chopping block in austerity, right? And so I think really making space to how is it that we are balancing fighting for an essential basic budget while also contending with ridiculous OPD overtime hours, where OPD is also playing like a rent-a-cop service for private corporations like Home Depot that are not even based here, right? So I really encourage and implore folks to follow the Oakland People's Budget Coalition. I know there are press conferences. There are city council members that are just now today announcing their budget forums. We want to mobilize to them to lift up those 5 priorities. Okay, Alameda County budget. I brought some Post-its because I can't share a slide. Is that okay?
No, that's wonderful.
All right, so first off, we have an Alameda County budget training on May 17th. I really hope you all join. You can register. It's this coming Saturday. You can register on the Restore Oakland Inc. Instagram. But I'm just gonna do some high level stuff, right? Number one, the Alameda County budget is $4 billion. Oakland City Council is like 2 billion. So this just gives you a sense, and Oakland is like 40% of the county, right? So this is why people, to John's point, like most people don't even know who their county supervisor is.
Exactly.
There's also only 5 of them. So there's like less people to be organizing, right? And I think they really like not knowing, like they really like not being known other than
They
Nikki
do.
Bass. They like they benefit from being able to like continue the status quo by not being known. And the media also doesn't do a very good job talking about that.
Yeah, real quick. I
So,
was just in San Leandro yesterday going to get some flowers for my mom, and I'm like, oh, this is Lena Tam's office. Like, you
yeah,
know, there's no communication with, constituents of even how to uh, communicate and contact.
totally. I mean, this county goes as far south as Fremont, as far east as Pleasanton and Berkeley, right? So it's a really, really big county. Um, and yeah, most people don't even know who these five supervisors are.
Right.
Also, Lena Tam is up for re-election, and someone really needs to run against her. So the feds contribute 15% to the county budget, the state of California 41%, right? So just like the city, the county is really dependent on what's going on at these other levels. And what's happening at the federal government is really dynamic, ever evolving. We still don't really know what's going
Mhm.
on there, which is why it's a really good time to get the county and the city to fund the things we really care about, right? So the money that we actually contribute and that the supervisors have real control over is $1 billion, right? Of their a little bit more or so, right? They have like other assets, but they have $1 million. So of the $1 billion, sorry, they have $1 billion budget, like of their county general funds. I'm gonna just tell you right now that jails and cops make up 49% of what the county spends its own funds on, whereas it spends 19% of healthcare. I'm just gonna let that sink in and just like pass that to the
Yeah,
two of you to like
I
comment
think
on
I
that.
think you need to repeat that one more time.
The county spends of its own money that it has, right? It spends 49% of its own money on jails and cops and 19% of its own money on healthcare. So what does that say? It says that the budget is a moral document. It reflects our priorities. We can sit around here, for the reimagining public safety thing, talk about all of these policies that we want to see, get them written into ordinances, but they don't get implemented until they are funded, until there are people sitting or out in the streets sitting in desks like making them
Right.
happen, right? And all of that gets facilitated through the budget. And so we want to really be thinking about like what are our priorities and values and how do we get these supervisors to reflect that?
And when
I have a lot.
is
Yeah.
the Restore event happening again?
Oh, we're having a budget training on May 17th. It's a Saturday where we get to tell you a little bit more about these numbers and we tell folks like what it is we're fighting for.
I really want to encourage people to tap into these teachings. As you just heard, more than almost half of the budget is going into jails and law enforcement, and than 20%, less than 20% is going into healthcare. That's a huge problem. And so when we get upset about seeing some of the conditions, we need to know who to hold accountable for that. There's many deals. If anybody would like to talk about, John, I know you've been heavily involved in the Coliseum sale,
Mm-hmm.
and there's been, some pushback to that. That's a parcel tax that can actually go to help with some of the things that we're discussing. Can you really quick talk about that and the importance it is to the budget, um, and how in what ways community and voters can help African American Entertainment Sports Group?
Yeah, thank you. So first of all, as a member of the African American Sports and Entertainment Group, AASCG, first of all, the first mistake that was communicated was tying the deal to the budget. The reason why that was a mistake is, first of all, real estate transactions are never tied to a budget because most folks know there's a timeline associated. So with this project in particular, we have to navigate not just the city of Oakland, we have to also navigate the county of Alameda, which also includes the deal that the county had with the Oakland A's, which also include a lawsuit that was led by Communities for a Better Environment. So there were lots of moving parts to the deal. And I get why it was a lot of confusion because of the way it was presented. So I want to start there first and foremost. We knew going into this that it was going to require navigating these multiple spaces. So as a group, we never communicated a timeline. It was unfortunate that the city did that because it placed us. First of all, let's be honest. As Black people, the first question always is, "Hey, y'all got the money? They ain't got the money." That was never it. Community. No one ever there's until you have the title on something, you don't own it. Here's the other piece. We have debt that had to be retired due to the renovation of the Coliseum in '95 and the Oakland Arena in '96. We're very close to retiring that debt. We're scheduled to finish paying off that next year. Our group was in a position, had we able to make a deal with both the city and the county, we also
And
said we
John,
would
real
pay
real
for that.
quick, for those who might not understand, who is still paying off that debt for renovations?
You are, we are taxpayers. That's our debt, right? So our group was willing to say, hey, we would take care of that, but give us the title first, right? So it's been a lot of frustration. And I'll just say this real quickly on a quick note. We're moving closer, right? I want to thank supervisors, not Haggerty, supervisors Harbert and Molly in particular, because they are now in the meetings. So here's something that a lot of people don't know. It's not always your elected officials that you got to keep an eye on. I'm gonna keep it 100. Sometimes
Yeah.
it's the appointed folks who got the power, right? They're not subject to a reelection. So sometimes they make decisions that blows our mind and we don't know why. It's not a level of transparency because more often than not, these things take place in closed session meetings.
Right.
But I
You're
want to
talking
say,
about the county council,
yes,
Donna Ziegler, and the county administrator, Susan Maranishi,
yes, right.
who holds the purse strings and represents the county, is the county's attorneys. Yeah.
Right. And can I just say real quick to the point of these budgets, because I know a lot of times we focus on Oakland, which is a small pot, as Tasha said. Let us not forget, people. California spends $80 billion in federal taxes. So number 47 is not in a position to tell us we can't get our money back. We got to understand that the federal pot is always the largest pot. In fact, Trump just cut 800 million earmarked for violence prevention that was previously passed by council. 800 million, right? 2 million for Youth Alive, 6 million for National Institute for Criminal Justice Reform. At the same time, Trump is proposing to increase our defense spending, right, by over over what is it? 100 billion. Let me say this again. He cut 800 million with an M for violence prevention in our communities.
Mhm.
800 with an M. But he's proposing to increase 100 billion with a B for defense spending. But his whole campaign was America first. So we have to make sure that we're not just putting the heavy lifting just on our local government. All branches of government have to be involved. That's the only way this is going to work, or we're going to be over here just stabbing each other in the back for pennies, which is, again, they like to do that as well. And when I say they,
Hmm.
let me be clear, the powers that be from the highest levels coming on down, from the feds to the state to the county to the city.
Absolutely. Anything you want to add to that, Tosh?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, those are massive. It's just, again, the budget is a moral document, and we're seeing how, you know, Trump and a fascist dictator is valuing these priorities. And I do have to say that the county, I'm not saying that the county has fascist dictators on the dais, but our priorities are very similar, right? They're not that far off, right? So for example, the sheriff's budget in 2008 was $275 million. $275 million in 2008. How many years ago was that? I can't even do math right now. It was like more than 15 years ago, 17 years ago. Today it's $660 million. It has more than doubled, right, in around 15 years. Has the jail population doubled? I don't think so. The jail's population has decreased, right? It is a third the size that it was in 2008. I think these numbers are backwards, so it may be hard for you to see. But the jail
Yeah.
population in 2008 was 4,500. And the jail population today is 1,500. right? So that goes to say that this like doom loop spiral that everyone is talking about is actually not true when we're looking at the numbers. Retail theft is at an all-time low. But what we really need is a social infrastructure that can
Mhm.
keep us stable. Like none of these social services work. None of these mental health care programs work if people don't have a place to live, right? If none of these employment, workforce development services work, if you don't have a place to send a check, right? And so I think this is why talking about this pot of money, Measure W, right, that is actually not connected to the budget. It is outside of the budget. That process actually starts in July once the budget is
Right.
over, is so important. But to really see the continuity and the ways in which these threads are like really braid into itself, right? So we now know that the cost of incarcerating someone in Santa Rita jail is like 250K a year.
Per
I don't know
person.
about you, but if you gave me 250K a year, I could not only like, and I was sick and on the streets, I would not only figure out a way to survive, but I would figure out how to get like my family and a whole nother family to be able to survive. Right. But we're just wasting these monies away, like to the military or locally in our jails. And so this is why we are advocating at the Care First Community Coalition for four things. Number one, budget transparency. How much money is in the reserves? It is raining. It is storming. It is time to use that rainy day fund. Why is it that not even the Board of Supervisors knows how much money is in those reserves, right? Number two, we need housing, as I've said. Number three, we need mental health care that is paired with housing. And number four, we need to talk about diversion, diverting people out of the jail into these meaningful services.
Mm.
Absolutely. All of the above. And someone had a question. What time is the training on
Mm.
Saturday?
Yeah, the training on Saturday starts at 11:30. I also know like we're trying to have it like right like I know Malcolm X Jazz Fest starts at around that time. So if you do register, you will get a recording, but we will be done by around 1 o'clock. So y'all can head over to San Antonio Park and we can all connect at the Malcolm X Jazz Festival.
And we'll also share details on our Oakland Rising page, and folks can get the details and more information there as well.
Hmm.
I want to make sure that I share some upcoming dates. Again, we're all encouraging folks to pay attention to the budget. If you can't attend forums, follow um, the work that Restore is doing in Care for Our Communities and everyone around the budget, the Oakland People's Budget. Again, we are a coalition of organizations, many that you already follow, that's doing the work to advocate for all the points that Tosh pointed out. And I also, want to acknowledge that our board of supervisors was able to secure some additional funding for immigrant protections and rights. I think it was around 3 million-ish dollars, but that's important as well.
Hmm.
And the programs, a lot of programs and organizations that we hold dear that has been doing the work around violence prevention and working with our unhoused communities have lost funding. We have to find ways. How can we continue to support? Courage is out here doing, great work along with other orgs, and you know, these organizations are taking a hit. But as it was pointing out, this is coming from the top, to the bottom. We are, yeah, it's raining, it's storming.
Yeah, it's been storming.
This is the time where we need to put the SOS, sign up and really look at what is going to keep all of us safe. As somebody who has experienced housing insecurities, it can happen really quick.
Mhm.
And it's happening quick to numerous people, not just here in Oakland, Alameda County, but throughout California. And so there's some upcoming budget forms coming up. Oakland Rising. We have shared information on our Instagram page as well through our e-blast. But let's see, starting this week, I'll start with the ones that start this week. So this Wednesday, we'll start with District 7. I'll be present at the District 7 forum, which is on Wednesday at 6 p.m. at the 81st Avenue Library branch. Uh, and Thursday is District 6 with interim mayor, council member Kevin Jenkins in District 6. I would say contact his office because they have not released the location for that, but it starts at 5:30. And District 5, where you are, John, uh, is Saturday, May 31st, with Councilmember Noel Gallo at the Cesar Chavez Library from 10 a.m. until 12. And for District 4, Councilmember Janani Ramachandran, 6 to 7:30. Again, contact her office directly because they have not released a location. And also Saturday, May 31st, is District 3 with Councilmember Carol Fife, 12:30 to 2 p.m. Contact directly or continue looking for updates for a location. And for District 2, we have a joint forum with interim council member Rebecca Kaplan and newly elected member Charlene Wang and council member at large Rowena Brown. That is on Wednesday, May 28th, and details
Mm-hmm.
for location will be released. And lastly, for District 1, newly elected member Zach Unger will be hosting his forum at the Temescal Works from 5:30 to 7 p.m. And so plenty of opportunity for folks to
Mm-hmm.
attend, listen, and contribute to the conversations. Any last words or important dates that people should be looking out before we hop off?
Uh, yeah, if I may, two things in particular that's so important. The first is, let's start with, we talk about the fight that we're in and why we need to advocate. Here's another reason why it's so crucial. We just seen it with the recalls, right? It's called the political impact of gentrification. Over the last decade, a lot of people, the tech industry has been drawing folks from around the world. They come to Oakland, but they really don't share our values here. Let me be very clear. I've been preaching that for a decade now, and we've seen that from the barbecue Becky incident on. So we're not just balloting the powers that be. We got to deal with a growing size of folks. If you look at the results of the presidential elections from 2016 to 2024, 20% of Alameda County voters voted for 47. That number has increased. So that leads to the second thing. It's really incumbent upon all of us. We really have to educate ourselves. I want to be very clear. I'm not saying everyone who moved into Oakland recently is a bad person. No, they're not. Many people do care.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, they just don't understand the history of the social issues and they don't understand the issues related to the policy. So my advice is if you cannot attend a committee meeting or a city council meeting or even a board of supervisor meeting in person, due to technology, you can follow online. Even if you can't at the time of the meeting, all these meetings are archived. Please, people, we have to educate ourselves because, as they say, organized confusion will always defeat disorganized truth. I'm going to say that again. Organized confusion will always beat unorganized truth. We have to be organized, and it starts with, again, educating ourselves.
Mm. Thank you, John. Yeah, knowledge is power, so I have two things to build on John's comment. Number one, go to one budget forum, right? Go to your district council members budget forum. And in fact, you can just Google search Alameda, or not Alameda, you can Google search Oakland City Council budget, and it'll take you to an Oakland City website, and then it'll even show you what each council member's priorities for this year.
Mhm.
And you
Mhm.
can look at their priorities to be like, do those align with mine, or do those align with me and my neighbors and ones of the Oakland People's Budget Coalitions, let's amplify the ones that do, and let's like name the ones that are actually in contradiction to it, right? So really easy to do your research. They all wrote like literally one page about what they care about and what they're fighting for, and it's helpful to go to those forums with that tool. The second thing that I'll say, just to build off of what John said, is, you know, I know this is really unsexy work. No one likes to do their own budget. Let's talk about that. Like, we barely even have the tools to be doing our own budgets, right? We live in an extractive capitalist system that doesn't want us to know like know how to use money or have a good relationship with money, right? So that they can continue to extract, pollute, and disempower us, right? So, but you have to remember that we have the most power in this budget process. We foot everybody's salaries, we foot every single department budgets. We have the power to vote them in, and we have the power to vote them out. And that means that we have the power, yeah, we have the power to vote them out, and we just voted in Barbara Lee. You know, it's like so this is actually a very opportunistic moment to like put your money where your mouth is, right? And we do this by organizing. We do this by building a bigger, stronger coalition. And that coalition has to be informed. We have to follow the money in order to fight for these solutions. And it honestly doesn't really take much to cause a ruckus, right? Um, they count on us not showing up to be able to do the things that they've been doing for decades. So we have to prove them wrong.
Absolutely. I love the points that both of you just made, especially about ways to get involved. You know, if you just find one, find a forum, attend it, read what the priorities are. And I'll take it a step further. Like this, actually, the budget and getting to see what council members' priorities are, whether you voted for them or not, really speaks levels because is it representing you, right? And that's a good way in these forums to try to seek some type of accountability. And I want to say something that I have said before and will repeat over and over and over again. This is our city. If you're an Oakland resident, boards and commissions are very important. I say this as a former commissioner. I know that John has sat on some boards as well, and many times they don't reflect the community, and they don't reflect long time or lifetime residents. And so find one, pick one. I believe I just saw, if you're concerned about law enforcement, police commission, we have a budget and advisory commission, right? That you can also join, but it's important that they reflect the makeup of the entire Oakland community. Like Tosh said, we did something. I don't think people really understand the win that we just got here in Oakland, and how that has impacted the fascist takeover, right, by corporations and MAGA folks. Why are so many people outside of Oakland upset? Right. So that's really important. We were able to do what some of our sister cities were not able to do.
Mhm.
And that was disrupting. And so, with that said, follow these people. Follow the work that they're doing, right? If you can't attend, that's why we are all here to provide the engagement and the education. So, Oakland Rising, we will continue sharing the process, of the budget and the work that John and Taj is doing with their respective organizations. And so, I just want to thank you both for your time, for educating the public, and for the continued work that you're doing.
For sure. Thank you for having us.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you for the work you've been doing. You and Oakland Rising, both of y'all, all y'all.
All of us.
Thank you.
Yeah,
All of
all of
us.
us.
Love you.
Okay.
Thanks for everybody for spending your lunch with us. Have a good weekend or good week.
Bye.
Yes. Peace.